What happens when a decades-old murder case suddenly takes an unexpected turn? Today, we dive into the shocking story of the Menendez brothers, a case that has captivated America for over 30 years. In 1989, Eric and Lyle Menendez brutally murdered their parents in their Beverly Hills mansion. Now, after spending most of their lives behind bars, new developments could dramatically change their fate. Are we on the brink of seeing one of the most controversial reversals in criminal justice history? Stay tuned as we unravel the twists and turns of this gripping true crime saga. Picture this: a quiet August night in 1989 Beverly Hills. The Menendez family mansion, a symbol of wealth and success, becomes the scene of a horrific crime. Jose and Kitty Menendez shot dead while watching TV. Their sons, Eric and Lyle, aged 18 and 21, call the police, claiming they've discovered their parents' bodies. But what seemed like a tragedy soon unraveled into one of America's most gripping criminal cases. The brothers' lavish spending sprees in the wake of their parents' deaths raised suspicions. Rolex watches, gambling, partying, hardly the behavior of grieving sons. As the investigation deepened, a shocking confession emerged. The brothers admitted to the killings, but their motive? That's where the story takes a dark turn. Prosecutors painted a picture of greed. Two spoiled rich kids willing to kill for their $14 million inheritance. The defense, however, told a very different story. Years of emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, they claimed, had driven the brothers to act in self-defense. The nation watched, riveted, as two trials unfolded. The first ended in a mistrial, but the second, in 1995, saw both brothers convicted of first-degree murder. But was justice truly served? Or was there more to this story than met the eye? In a stunning turn of events, LA County District Attorney George Gascon has recommended resentencing for the Menendez brothers based on new evidence that has come to light. This development could potentially alter the course of one of America's most infamous murder cases. The new evidence includes a letter, apparently written by Eric Menendez in 1988, which details the alleged abuse he suffered at the hands of his father. But that's not all. In a shocking twist, a former member of the 1980s Puerto Rican boy band Menudo has come forward with claims that Jose Menendez, who was an executive at RCA Records at the time, drugged and raped him during a visit to the Menendez home. These revelations have reignited the debate about the brothers' motive for the murders. Could this new information lend credence to their claims of self-defense? Or is it too little, too late after decades of imprisonment? Gascon's recommendation has sent shockwaves through the legal community and reopened old wounds for those involved in the case. But what does this mean for the Menendez brothers? And how might it change the narrative that has surrounded this case for over 3 decades? Now, let's delve into the complex process that could lead to the Menendez brothers' potential release. It's not as simple as opening the prison doors. There are several crucial steps that must be taken. First and foremost, a judge needs to agree with the district attorney's recommendation for resentencing. This isn't a mere formality. The judge will carefully review the new evidence and arguments presented by both sides before making a decision. If the judge does agree to resentencing, what happens next? Well, that's where the parole board comes in. They would need to approve the brothers' release, and that's no small task. The board will consider various factors, including the nature of the crime, the brothers' behavior in prison, and whether they pose any risk to society if released. But here's where it gets even more interesting. A court hearing will be scheduled, likely within the next 30 to 45 days. This is where both sides will have the opportunity to present their arguments. Can you imagine the tension in that courtroom? On one side, you'll have those arguing for the brothers' release, potentially including the brothers themselves. They'll likely focus on the new evidence of abuse and their rehabilitation over the past 3 decades. On the other side, you might even see members of the district attorney's own staff arguing against their boss's recommendation. It's a rare and fascinating scenario that underscores just how divisive this case remains. So what do you think? Will the judge agree to resentencing? And if so, will the parole board ultimately approve their release? The path to freedom for the Menendez brothers is far from certain, but it's clearer now than it has been in decades. The Menendez brothers' case continues to divide public opinion, even decades after their conviction. On one side, we have family members who passionately support the brothers' release. They argue that new evidence of abuse justifies a re-evaluation of the case. But not everyone agrees. Some relatives, like Kitty Menendez's brother Milton Anderson, firmly believe the brothers should spend the rest of their lives behind bars. This case has also caught the attention of celebrities. Kim Kardashian, for instance, recently praised the district attorney's decision to review the case, calling it a step towards righting a significant wrong. But does celebrity endorsement influence public opinion on such serious matters? The controversy surrounding this case raises broader questions about our justice system. How do we balance punishment with the possibility of rehabilitation? Should new evidence always warrant a review, even decades after a conviction? And how do we ensure that high-profile cases receive fair treatment without being swayed by public sentiment or media attention? As this case continues to unfold, it forces us to confront these challenging questions about justice, redemption, and the long-term impact of childhood trauma. What do you think? Should the Menendez brothers be given a second chance? Or have they rightfully paid for their crimes? Now, let's take a moment to consider the political implications of this shocking development. The timing of District Attorney George Gascon's announcement has raised more than a few eyebrows. With his re-election bid just around the corner, some are questioning whether there might be political motivations at play. This case has thrust the intersection of criminal justice reform and politics into the spotlight. Gascon, known for his progressive stance on criminal justice, is facing a tough re-election battle. Could this high-profile recommendation be a strategic move to garner support? It's worth noting that Gascon has denied any political motivation, insisting that this decision has been a long time coming. But in the world of politics, timing is everything. And the timing here is certainly interesting, to say the least. This situation perfectly encapsulates the delicate balance between pursuing justice and navigating the political landscape. It forces us to ask, how much should politics influence our justice system? And conversely, how much should high-profile cases like this one impact our political choices? The Menendez brothers' case forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our society and our justice system. For decades, male victims of sexual abuse have been overlooked, their trauma dismissed or minimized. This case brings that issue into sharp focus. We're left to wonder how many other men are out there silently carrying the burden of childhood abuse. Moreover, this case challenges our notions of justice and rehabilitation. The Menendez brothers have spent over 3 decades behind bars. They've grown from young men into middle age within prison walls. Does our justice system truly allow for redemption and change? Or do we believe that a crime committed at 18 or 21 should define a person's entire life? The long-term effects of abuse are complex and far-reaching. While it doesn't excuse their actions, understanding the brothers' trauma adds layers to this case that weren't fully explored in the original trials. It raises the question, how do we balance justice for victims with compassion for those who've suffered abuse themselves? As we grapple with these issues, we're forced to re-examine our beliefs about crime, punishment, and the possibility of redemption. The Menendez case isn't just about 2 brothers anymore. It's become a litmus test for our evolving understanding of justice in America. As we wrap up today's episode on the Menendez brothers, we're left with some thought-provoking questions. How might this case have unfolded differently if it were tried in today's courtrooms? Has justice truly been served, or is it time for a new approach to cases like these? The answers aren't simple, but they're worth considering. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this complex case. Share your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to join us next time for more gripping true crime stories. Until then, stay safe and stay curious. Hey listeners, welcome back to The Real Crime Diary. I'm your host, Sean Dupree. If you tuned in last time, we had a deep dive into the disturbing history of power abuse across different eras, looking at the connection between dominance, control, and how it plays out even today. We touched on scandals from the past and compared them with some modern-day examples, showing how these patterns of abuse, unfortunately, persist. One of the most insightful tools we've explored to understand this is my book, Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's not just a historical account, but an interdisciplinary approach to understanding why this keeps happening. We draw from history, philosophy, and modern case studies to explain how figures like Dominique Pellico, Harvey Weinstein, and others have exploited their positions of power for their own gain, often protected by the very systems meant to stop them. Recap of last interaction. In our last live stream, we discussed how libertinism, philosophically introduced by figures like Marquis de Sade, has shaped the way power and pleasure have been entangled throughout history. This concept ties directly into how figures like Weinstein operated, as we saw parallels between de Sade's fictional characters and the way powerful men manipulated their victims in real life. You guys had some amazing comments asking how societal structures have allowed these behaviors to go unchecked for so long. It's a crucial question, and one that the book addresses deeply. Why this book is valuable. Now, what's powerful about Power, Pleasure, and Pain is its ability to break down these historical patterns and link them to the present. You're not just reading about ancient Rome or Enlightenment philosophy. You're seeing how these ideologies are alive today. The book uncovers how sexual violence and control have been systematically woven into the fabric of societies from ancient times right up to the modern era. It's about understanding not just the individual predators, but the systems that protect them, whether it's in royal courts, religious institutions, or today's corporate and entertainment worlds. Through these historical lenses, we also explore movements like #MeToo that are beginning to dismantle these structures. The fight for justice is far from over, but as the book demonstrates, we are in the midst of a cultural shift where legal reforms are finally addressing these long-standing issues. It's more than a history lesson. It's a guide to understanding and supporting change today. What's next? If you want to dive deeper, I suggest picking up Power, Pleasure, and Pain, a study of abuse through time. It's available now, and trust me, it will change the way you think about power, pleasure, and control. We've even got some exclusive content coming up on the channel where we'll be exploring the book's case studies in even more detail, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to The Real Crime Diary so you don't miss any updates. Let's keep this conversation going, because understanding the past is key to changing the future.